Buongiorno.
Hi, Kunta, I just made you co-host.
Okay. Are you okay? Are you good?
Yes, all good, all good.
Okay, beautiful, man. Beautiful.
Okay, cool. Hi, Songezo, do you want to test if you can share?
Yes, Soli. Yes, Shana's morning.
Morning, morning. Don't you want to just check if you can share? It is open.
Yeah, it is my colleague that I want to have those sharing rights, Solomon.
Oh,
Soli,
okay.
Okay, good morning, Songezo. Let me
it was,
try to share
yeah,
and uh, do you see something?
not as of yet, my man.
Let me say share.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you
That's
see
fine. You
something
must just put it on a slide, no? Then it's easier to follow.
on the slide? Yeah, like this, no?
Yes,
Yes.
that's fine.
That's better.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all right. I will unshare and we'll share it when you start presenting.
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks, Shanaz. Thank you.
Okay. You can take your screen down, please, man.
Yeah, Soli, you can unshare.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, honorable members. members of the Portfolio Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation. Good morning and welcome to the Minister, Mr. Bladen Zimande, and the DSI team. Good morning to the AG team, and welcome to the Portfolio Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation. We are today meeting to get presentations on two important items. The first item that we are going to take today is a small orientation from the Auditor General. They have requested that they give us an orientation because it is related to the work that we are going to do, and they had not met with us. So we are first going to receive the small orientation and also the introduction of members of from Auditor General's office that are going to be working with us as a portfolio committee. The second one is we are going to receive our first quarter performance report from the department. So we are going to just start with our agenda and welcome everyone. We are going to start from our agenda. We will have those two from the agenda, and then we will then have discussions after. Then we'll have committee business later on. Can I have a mover from the members of the portfolio committee to adopt the agenda that we have today? Honorable Mazoni.
Chairperson, good morning. I'd like to move that we accept the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Mazoni. Can I have a mover to second the adoption of the agenda? Honorable Nkosi.
Thank you, Chairperson. I second the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nkosi. Shanaz, do we have any apologies? Shanaz?
Morning, yes, Chair. Morning to everybody on the platform. The apologies we received were from the Deputy Minister, who's busy with international obligations, and then the acting DG is supporting the minister in that official business today. Then the apology from one of the members was Ms. Sapo. She will join the meeting a bit later. So the delegation for the DSTI today will be led by acting DDG, not acting, DDG, Dr. Moafe. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Shanaz. Can we quickly go to the Auditor General team? Can the AG team come through with the presentation?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, honorable minister, officials from the department. I am Michelle Margaman. I'm from the Auditor General. I'm the business unit leader. I have my team with me. Can I just allow them to introduce themselves? And then we'll go through the presentation. Mbali, you can go ahead.
Yes, you can. Yeah, please, you can.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to you. Good morning to the honorable members and all invited guests. My name is Mbali Tsotedzi. I'm the Deputy Business Unit Leader from the Auditor General of South Africa. Thank you. Over to you, Sonia.
Okay, good morning, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. My name is Soli Gianni. I'm the Senior Manager responsible for the DSI portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair, and honorable members. This is my team that will also be helping me, taking you through some of the induction. Soli will take you through the audit outcomes. I'll take you through the first part just to talk about what the AGSA does, how we do our work, and what makes us or what legislates us to do our work. And then so I'm going to hand over to Soli, and he'll take us through the audit outcomes for the 2022-23. So we thought that because we have not tabled, the departments or the entities have not tabled the annual reports, that we do a reflection on the audit outcomes for the portfolio for the past year. So what was presented already in the previous BRRRs, just to give you a sense of where the portfolio is coming from, what are some of the recommendations that we have brought forth, and also maybe some of the key areas in terms of material irregularities, so that you are familiar with the portfolio before we get to October, where we will bring the audit outcomes for the 2023-24 financial year. So this is only the focus on the past few years until 2022-23 financial year. So you can just go to the next slide. I'm going to start with our mission as the AGSA. So we are constitutionally mandated, and as a Supreme Audit Institution of South Africa, we exist to strengthen our country's democracy by enabling oversight, accountability, and governance in the public sector through auditing, thereby building public confidence. So what this means for us is that we don't only exist to audit financial statements, but we exist to say, once we are finished auditing, what then do we do? And what we're saying is that we take the audit outcomes, we take some of the observations that we've had, and we give it to oversight bodies to allow them to interrogate and also hold those that are, if it's necessary, accountable. And we are saying that once we have done that, it should be able to either move the auditee to a better place or sustain good results. And we can see that that will build public confidence in the society that we are serving. Soli, next slide, please. In terms of introducing the Auditor General of South Africa, we are a Supreme Audit Institution, and we exist together with other Supreme Audit institutions in the world. And we do take on some of the principles that they also utilize. And one of the key ones that is a cornerstone is that we say that Supreme Audit institutions, as Supreme Audit institutions, want to make a difference in the lives of our citizens when we do our audit, when we do our observations. And we have adopted some of these principles that other sides have also adopted, and they are in the three areas. If you look at the first one, we're saying it's strengthening the accountability, transparency, and integrity of government and the public sector. And there are principles that talk about that. And importantly, the principle of independence is a key cornerstone for us as the Auditor General. We also have the other principles which talks about demonstrating ongoing relevance to citizens, parliament, and other stakeholders. So this is being responsive to what happens in the country, being responsive to some of the events that are happening. For example, your COVID-19, where we were responsive in terms of making sure that we do real-time audits as well. We talk about communicating effectively with stakeholders, so engaging with yourselves, listening to your questions, improving as we move along. Where you have inputs, take those into consideration and just improve our product so that we are able to give you the information that is necessary for you to provide your oversight. The next one is talking about building a model organization through leading by example. So even within ourselves, not only to our clients, but we're talking about looking at ourselves internally, making sure that we have good governance structures within the AGSA, looking at striving for excellence and quality. So we have rigorous quality review processes. We make sure that the people that are appointed are belonging to professional bodies, where we can hold them accountable for integrity and independence and also accountability. So these are what the AGSA, the cornerstone of the Auditor General and the principles that we follow. Next slide, Solly. In terms of the work that we do as the Auditor General and the work of Parliament, we are saying that our work is quite interlinked. It is dependent on, you can rely and look at our work in order to do your oversight function. If you look at the portfolio committee's mandate and their oversight, you do talk about, we do see that you do monitor, investigate, and inquire into areas and make recommendations, which is very similar to what we do as the AGSA. As the AGSA, we primarily look at financial statements, compliance with legislation, as well as the report on predetermined objectives. And once we've done that, we then also give to the portfolio committees so that they are able to then do their oversight in terms of monitoring and investigating some of the areas that we have found. Our powers did get extended a few years ago. So the process of material irregularities, and you'll see we shorten it and say MI, is embedded in the system throughout the country, throughout the spheres of government, where we talk about when we identify an item and it is what we define it as a material irregularity, we do say that we have powers now to take any appropriate remedial action and issue a certificate of debt, provided that that material irregularity is not appropriately dealt with by the accounting officer or authority. In the presentation, when Solly presents, he will take you through the definition of a material irregularity and also the process that we follow. But the material irregularity, just in summary, is basically us as the Auditor General making sure that the accounting officer, accounting authority does do their function in terms of what is required in the PFMA. So if there is something that is irregular or there's a non-compliance, there's an area there was a non-compliance and there's a financial loss that was suffered, we ask then the accounting officer, accounting authority to do what is required in the PFMA to stop the loss from recurring, to take disciplinary action, investigate the matter, recover the funds. And once the accounting officer authority does not perform those activities, then that's when our powers actually get, that's when we can exercise our powers, where we can then enforce to say the accounting officer must do that function. And if they don't do that function, then we can then issue a certificate of debt to the accounting officer or accounting authority. Next slide, Solly. In terms of what our work, some of the work that we do, so when we do the audit report, we also look at root causes of what happened, what resulted in the root cause, and then we provide recommendations. We also say that we want to have impactful engagements where we do give the recommendations, we take inputs with management, with the accounting officers, accounting authorities, with the portfolio committees, with the executive authority. We do have what we call a preventative control guide that we worked with National Treasury, and we've shared this with some of the clients, where we say that it is important that when you look at your root causes and when we look at recommendations, let's be clear to make sure that we have preventative controls, not only your detective controls, which are also important, but rather let's prevent something from happening rather than coming and detecting it at the end. So when we do craft our recommendations, we do look at preventative controls, and we urge the management and accounting officers and authorities to rather look at preventative controls rather than detective. And we have a guide that we've worked together with National Treasury to assist. We do participate in quite a number of capacitation initiatives. So if the committee feels that even after this session, they need something additional, we are always make ourselves available to make sure that we understand the role, we understand some of the outcomes that are there, and we are able then to capacitate you in order to do your oversight well. Next slide, Solly. In terms of the HSA, with all that I've just discussed, we do have a strategy in the office, our strategic aspirations. We are saying that if you look at point 1, that we want to move a lot of our auditees from a doing harm to a doing good by 2030. So our strategic aspirations is to work closely with the clients, understand, get the recommendations, get the root causes, and help them move from where they were sitting into the doing good category. And we do this by, if you look at the second item here, we do this by providing insights. So not only do we then audit, but we'll also look at your performance information. We look at how your financial statements are sitting, and we look at certain areas that are important to your mandate, and then we give insights to say, how are you doing in terms of these areas? Are you achieving what you're required to achieve in terms of the mandate that is entrusted within an entity? We then want to influence, if you look at point 3, we say that once we've obtained these insights, we want to influence the auditees, the management of the auditees. We want to influence to change. So if there's a control weakness, we want to influence that control be strengthened, be implemented, be monitored, so that we don't have repeat audit findings. So our influence strategy talks about moving the auditee from the point that they are at into a better position. And we're saying that we want to shift this public, we want to shift the auditees into a character that is characterized by performance, accountability, integrity, and transparency. The fourth point there is the enforce, and this mainly talks to our mandate. So we're saying that if we see that there's a significant matter and that we've provided insights on, we have tried to influence the change and yet it's not, and you are not, the auditee is not responding appropriately, we then have our powers, that is the material irregularity, where we then enforce them on the auditee to say, now you have to change, you have to implement controls so that you get to that desired characteristics of performance, accountability, integrity, and transparency. So this is our strategic aspirations as the office. This is what we work towards during the audit, as well as after the audit, when we do reflections of what has come out in terms of the audit outcomes. Next slide, Solly. So we also have the accountability ecosystem. And here we're talking about the who needs to do what. And here we are saying that if everybody in this accountability ecosystem, including the Auditor General in the middle there, that if we do our jobs, all of us, every day, the way we need to do them in terms of the legislation, then we should be able to impact the lives of the citizens ultimately. And we're saying this ecosystem needs to work in synergy, which includes your support and your oversight. So it includes treasury, it includes your DPME, it includes your legislatures, to say that if we all do our function in the accountability ecosystem, we should be seeing improvements in the life of the citizens. Next slide, Solly. Okay, that was all from my side. I am going to hand over to Solly to do the overall audit outcomes in terms of what was reflected on in the previous years in terms of this portfolio. We will come back in the BRRR to give you how the entity has performed from the audit outcomes that we have until for the 2023-24 financial year. But Solly will just do reflections of what we have observed in the past. Solly, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. And thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. You will indicate if you still see my presentation. Mine is to go through the overall audit outcomes. So you can just indicate if ever the presentation, you can see it from your side.
We can see, Sally. I think we are fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I think the next slide basically talks to the different types of audit opinion that we basically express, and of course, after concluding our audit. So basically, if you check on your extreme right, we focus on 3 areas. That is on the financial statement, the performance report, and also your compliance with your laws and regulation. So when we are finished, then we assess to check whether the audit opinion that we need to express is either unqualified with no findings, or financially unqualified opinion with findings, qualified opinion at best, or disclaimer of opinion. So with the unqualified opinion with no findings, basically there is where we didn't identify any material misstatement in your financial statement, and there were no material findings on performance information, and there were no material findings under your compliance with laws and regulations. With financially unqualified opinion, with findings, there is an instance of situation where the financial statement fairly present the state of affairs of the entity, and there were no material misstatement in the financial statement. However, there were findings under performance information or compliance with laws and regulations. So with regard to qualified opinion, in that instance, we are saying the financial statement do not fairly present. In other words, there were material misstatement that could not be resolved by the entity before we issue our report. So we are saying your financial statement do not fairly present the state of affairs of the entity. With adverse opinion is almost similar to qualified opinion. There were material misstatement. However, those material misstatements are cutting across over a lot of line items in your financial statement, meaning there's a pervasive misstatement, in your overall financial statement, to a point whereby we disagree with almost all the amounts and disclosures in the financial statement. With that, regard to the disclaimer opinion, here we're saying now the financial statement that you presented to us were not supported by the sufficient evidence. And therefore, we are saying we are actually limited in terms of expressing our opinion in terms of the fair presentation of the financial statement. And next slide, Chairperson, basically is overall audit outcomes for the DSI portfolio. This slide basically is trying to show us the structure of the DSI portfolio. If you can see, there is entities under the department. For the department itself, but now with its entities underneath, that is your CSIR, NRF, Human Science Research Council, and then there's other entities that we call Section 43 entities that we opted not to audit. And in these instances, the entities themselves, they appoint their own auditors, but of course, with our concurrent first as Auditor General. So then the presentations that follow here, Chairperson, it specifically talks to the department and the entities that we have audited. And then this Section 43 entities are reported separately or presented separately in this presentation slide. Okay, then the next slide, Chairperson, as Michelle has indicated, we are talking to 2022-2023 audit outcomes. But now if you can check during the year under review, there has been a slight improvement. In 2021, we had an entity that has a qualified audit opinion. But now in this year under review, the 2022-23, that entity improved in the sense that they have been able to do material adjustment in their financial statement that ended up them achieving an unqualified audit opinion. So then I think the entity under the entity concern is Human Science Research Council. But the other three entities, that is the SI, CSIR, and NRF, they were able to achieve clean audit outcomes. Then the next slide, Chairperson, is about the portfolio performance. Here we're talking about the quality of performance report before and after the audit. As you can see in the bar chart there, everything has been good before and after the audit, in that there were no material findings that were reported by the Auditor General. The next slide, Chairperson, talks to the performance against targets. If you can check on your extreme left on the bar chart, we've got the DSI that achieved 80% of the targets, CSIR 91, NRF 80, and Human Science 81. However, we've got those targets that are not achieved by the DSI portfolio. I think it's quite a list of them there, but suffice to emphasize that the non-achievement of these targets could actually result in a shortage of skilled resources in certain critical science and innovation areas, which in turn could impact key initiatives and development of our country. And again, this non-achievement of targets can also affect the department's ability to contribute to human capital and economic development of South Africa at the required level. This has an impact on the citizens of South Africa who utilize education and skill development initiatives of the department to enhance their employability. Therefore, the department and its entities should actually reflect on their indicators and targets against the MTSF and National Development Plan aspirations. Okay, Chairperson, the next slide talks to the achievement of key performance targets. It's just a summary. It summarizes those performance targets and indicators that I was talking about. And your extreme left is the performance indicator, and then you've got your targets and your actual performance. And then on the extreme right, it's various reasons that actually indicates why those targets were basically not achieved. Same applies to the next slide. It talks then to Human Science Research Council, their performance indicators, and the reason for non-achievement. Same applies to the DSI. Okay, then the next slide, Chairperson, talks to skills and employment. We're not necessarily focusing only on just auditing those three key focus areas I've talked about. We also extend ourselves to review some information within the DSI environment to check whether there's any contribution of the DSI portfolio to skills and unemployment, which is linked to the government training documents, your National Development Plan, and also your MTSF. So now what we have actually picked up is that the DSI portfolio basically contributes to skills and unemployment, mainly by providing a bursary to the postgraduate students, including funding the researchers. So in that, they are contributing to skills and unemployment, Chairperson. However, our observation was that the NRF and DSI basically, they do not track if those postgraduate qualifications are communicated timely. And also, they do not track whether the funded postgraduates and researchers, after completion of their studies, if they are employed and absorbed in the labor market. And also, they did not participate in the presidential employment stimulus. However, other employment initiatives were implemented but not tracked. Basically, the most important thing is to follow the rank and track whether your investment actually has yielded some benefit to those we are actually funding and supporting. So in that, we are recommending, Chairperson, to NRF and DSI to consider training funded student study and career progression and the impact on the employment that's contributing to eradication of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And also the funded researchers output and their impact also be measured to assess how it benefits South African citizens. So the portfolio should consider tracking the investment made in science and in the innovation to measure its contribution on the lived experiences of our citizens. The next slide, Chairperson, talks to the MI process that has been implemented and the MIs that have been identified. Actually, in this environment, Chairperson, there's only one, I think, MI that was identified in 2022. I think that particular MI, we have actually notified the accounting officer, and the steps and then the accounting authority has taken some steps in order to try and address this particular MI. Basically, this MI is on the HRC payroll system that was not updated to align with changes, which resulted in a payroll benefit being paid to employees without deducting the associated taxation. And ultimately, a financial loss was realized. And then this resulted in a non-compliance with Section 57 of the PFMA. But suffice to mention on the action that has been taken by the accounting authority is that there is financial loss of about 4 million that has been recovered, and 2.4 is in a process of recovery. So we also noted that there were investigations that were instituted to identify the responsible officials. However, the outcome of the investigation was that there is no current official that is responsible for the material irregularity, as some of them since left the entity. However, we are confident that the internal controls and processes have been put in place to actually avoid the recurrence of the similar material irregularity. So, in our recommendation to the Portfolio Committee, we recommended that the Portfolio Committee should continue to engage the accounting authority to determine the progress made in recovering the remaining potential losses, the requirements to determine whether recovery is not feasible, and action to be taken when recovery is not possible, especially relating to the interest paid. Okay, the next slide, Chairperson, is on financial management and compliance. As you can see here, we're talking about the quality of the financial reporting. The slide here tells us about the financial management controls that have been put in place with regard to proper record keeping, in that when we request the information, we receive it on time. There are no instances where we couldn't receive the requested information. Our observation was that in all 4 entities that has been audited, there was a proper record keeping, and then also there was daily and monthly monitoring of controls. So that happened in all the 4 entities. On the in-year and year-end reporting, we've got, I think, on 3 entities, we are saying there are controls. However, with 1 entity of which is HSRC, there were quality issues on the financial statement. However, those were addressed after the adjustments were made on the financial statement. So this resulted in a reliable in a financial statement that are reliable and credible after, of course, the adjustments were made to the financial statement by the affected entity. Okay, the next slide talks to compliance with key legislation. If you can check the outcome there, the most common areas of non-compliance related to quality of financial statement that I've mentioned, that there was a material misstatement that were identified by auditors. However, the auditee of which is HSRC was able to effect some amendments on the financial statement, and at the end, the final audited financial statements are now free from material misstatement. But now that happens around the area of HSRC. So yeah, I think that's it about this particular slide. And then the next one, Chairperson, is PFM compliance and the reporting framework. So I think there was a change in the reporting framework. There was a National Treasury Instruction and Instruction number 4 of 2022-2023 that talks to PFMA compliance and reporting framework, which came into effect on the 3rd of January 2023. So basically, what is this instruction note indicating? It talks to the disclosure of the irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. In the past, all the movement on the opening balance, the movement and the closing balance was actually disclosed in the financial statements. So, but now this instruction note required that some of the information on the irregular, fruitless, and wasteful should be disclosed in the annual report. So now what we have done as Auditor General, we have actually reviewed, the annual report just to check if ever proper disclosure has been done in line with this instruction note, just to make sure that everybody is comfortable about the completeness and the accuracy of the amount that information that is disclosed in the annual report. So the next slide, Chairperson, talks to irregular expenditure. If you can check the annual irregular expenditure from 2019, I think, to 2023, 2022-23, there has been a rise in the irregular expenditure. However, I want to mention that it should be noted that there was value for money with regard to irregular expenditure, meaning the money that has been spent, there was goods and services that were received for money that were spent. Then if you can check the top contributors here is Human Science Research Council and CSIR. So with Human Science and Research Council, there's 28 million that relates to the prior approval that is not obtained from National Treasury when the deviation from competitive bidding is happening. And then most of these irregular expenditure emanated from the prior year. And also same applies to CSIR, is also those irregular expenditure relates to not obtaining, necessary approval from National Treasury before deviating from the normal competitive process. So we couldn't identify any limitation of scope during the audit. The next slide is talking to now the closing balance of the irregular expenditure that continue also to increase. But however, we have to mention that we have auditors that dealt with irregular expenditure in different manner. If you can check, we have money recovered or in the process of recovery. But now with regard to during the year under review, we have nothing to report as being recovered. However, we know that there was amount that was written off, that mainly is NRF. I think they applied to national, they obtained approval from the board to remove that irregular expenditure, and that was written off. And then, of course, about 0.15 million was condoned and removed, and then 57 million not dealt with. But now, top contributors to this prior irregular expenditure closing balance, again, HSRC comes on top, follows NRF, CSIR, and DSI. Okay, the next slide is on other entities within the portfolio, those Section 43 audits. These audit outcomes in the first year of administration and second year audit outcomes of this Section 43. If you can check in 2021, 2022, ASAF, TIA, and SASA, all 100% of that were they did not have issues. But now in 2022 and 2023, only TIA had issues, with regard to material adjustment, I think in their financial statements, and the issue of non-compliance. So that is only TIA with regard to the 2022-2023 audit outcomes. So the next one is our dispute resolution mechanism, Chairperson. We have identified that sometimes during the audit process, there are instances that are happening where we disagree with management. We basically normally try to encourage that all those disagreements or issues where we don't see each other or we don't agree or understand with each other, we encourage that should be resolved, within the audit team and management. But however, if those disagreements are not resolved at the engagement manager level, then they get to be escalated. So normally what drives this dispute, sometimes we are differing with our audit with regard to the legal interpretation, and sometimes we can also differ in the understanding of the application of the accounting standard. And then sometimes it becomes this selfish one where auditors just desire to obtain a clean audit and they're just trying to push back. But now I think to deal and make sure that, everybody feels well accommodated throughout the process, we've got in the next slide, the process that is followed then when such disagreement happens. So firstly, the engagement manager and management, they try to resolve the issue. And then if the issue is not resolved, it gets escalated to our head of portfolio. And then if then issue remains unresolved at that level, then it gets to the head of our audit. So who will do the ultimate final decision on that particular matter. But of course, we would have allowed management multiple times in order to be heard. Okay, Chairperson, these are conclusions and recommendations. Firstly, here is portfolio committee is a key root. We are talking to key root causes. key recommendations and commitments that were made by the executive authority. So in terms of the key root causes, there were deficiencies, of course, at HSRC, as I mentioned in our previous slide, in the preparation of accurate and complete financial reports that are supported and evidenced by reliable information, as well as the review and monitoring of compliance with applicable laws and regulations. So the HSRC also has an ongoing material irregularity that I already talked about. So our recommendation was that the HSRC board, with the support of the audit committee, should actually track the audit action plan to ensure that the appropriate action taken to resolve the internal control deficiency and noted. And also the board should take appropriate actions to fully address the MI and implement, of course, the consequence management where it's required. So a commitment by the executive authority was that the executive authority will monitor the progress made with action plans to address deficiencies in the portfolio and ensure that best practices are actually maintained. And the executive authority will also follow up to ensure that effective consequence management is applied and appropriate actions are taken to fully address the material irregularity. So our overall message to the portfolio committee was that the portfolio committee should oversee the implementation of the audit action plan and actually track progress made with the controls to address the underlying root causes of the findings, and also to oversee the action that HSRC board is taking to resolve the material irregularity, and also continue to provide oversight to ensure that best practices and preventive controls are implemented by management in the key risk areas. So, Chairperson, I think that's the end of my presentation. Here is the information if you want to consult or contact with the Auditor General. Thank you.
Thanks, Solly. I thought, Chair, just as a closure, so the presentation we did is quite, it just makes the matters a bit broader, but what we shared with you is really a compressed version that we thought the committee can utilize as you're continuing with your oversight and your engagements. But we can definitely talk to both the expanded one that we presented or the one that you have with you in terms of the compressed version as well. I'm going to hand over to you. We are here to take any questions and reflections from your side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive presentation. I think honorable members had already been exposed to some of the information, unless if honorable members want to ask anything from the AG before we take in the department and the quarterly report. Honorable members, do you have any clarity-seeking questions? Honorable Ramungaro, I don't see your hand, so we'll quickly take the clarity from Honorable Ramungaro, and then we close this matter. Over to you, Honorable Ramungaro.
Thank you, Chairperson. I welcome the presentation, and yeah, for some of us who are new, it's an eye opener in terms of the work that the AG does on this level of government. But however, like I just want to understand something. What actually happens once you've found discrepancies or transgressions in some of these entities? You know, I think as the AG, your job is only to make recommendations, if I'm correct. But Chair, in terms of things like discipline and accountability, once say for example we find that there was irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure identified, what happens next? Who is responsible for ensuring that, you know, consequence management is applied? Thank you.
Can we get a response from the AG team?
Thank you so much. Honorable member, the responsibility of the governance or the controls around the department or the entity remains with the accounting authority and the accounting officer. So we do bring forth the outcomes to the accounting officer. We get commitments from them, and then we follow up in the next year to say, have you implemented those areas? It is important then that that's why we also brief the minister and the portfolio committee. We will also brief the minister so that if the accounting officer or authorities do not do their part, the minister, through the performance management processes, should be able to also take action in terms of that. Because if you're not doing the job as described, the PFMA is quite prescriptive in terms of the responsibility of the accounting officer and accounting authorities. So if you're not doing your part in terms of dealing with irregular expenditure, then you're not necessarily performing your duties as an accounting officer, and that should be filtering into your performance agreement with your direct line manager that you are reporting to. And if you're an accounting officer, it will either be the president or the minister also has some powers to hold you accountable. From the HSA perspective, we look at the impact of some of the irregular expenditure of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and that's where our powers come in. So if we see that this irregular expenditure is in such a state that it meets the definition of what we call a material irregularity, then we issue the accounting officer or accounting authority with what we call a notification, and we say we've identified this problematic area and it's causing loss or it's causing harm. Can you please make sure that you deal with it? And then we wait for those commitments to come through. Once those commitments then come through, we assess them. If they're appropriate, we allow the accounting officer then to continue with implementing those appropriate measures. Those appropriate measures will include investigating, will include taking disciplinary actions, will include collecting the money where it's due, from whoever it's due. And however, if the accounting officer authority does not implement appropriate actions, this is where our powers actually get extended. So we are able then to give you an instruction or a recommendation, and should you still not be able to implement those actions or the recommendations that we're giving you, that's where that now leads into a certificate of debt element. So from the HSA side, we do have our powers do allow us to take it to another level, but not for every area of irregular or fruitless and wasteful, only the areas that meet the definition of a material irregularity. I hope that answers you, honorable member. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you so much from the Auditor General's office. We thank you so much for the presentation and your presence here with us today to enlighten us on the work that you do and with the committee. I know that we will have more of you around, and we have the entire team with you. So thank you so much. We will continuously engage with you. We are now going to take the presentation from the Department of Science and Innovation. Minister, you are welcome, and this is now your time.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and all the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I will just make some opening remarks, very brief, Chair, and allow me, having seen me, to just close the screen, because what I need to do, I can see now I haven't managed to close it. I want to access my notes from the very same gadget I'm connected with here. Can you just remove the presentation, Edith? Sorry. Yeah, okay. I just want to remove my, well, I can't chair, that's fine. As
No,
long as,
you have managed.
yeah, okay. Because I just want to access my screen. Honorable Chair and honorable members, and as well as let me greet you, as well as the senior officials from my department, and thanks for the opportunity to lead the presentation of the performance report for the first quarter of the current financial year. As stated in our interactions before and in our own annual performance plan, we regard the portfolio committee to us, which we account to, but at the same time to us, it's an important stakeholder body in the provision of oversight and guidance on the mandate activities and performance of our department and its entities. For this reason, the Deputy Minister and I find great encouragement from the interactions with the committee, as it helps us further to improve our own work and that of our department and the entities. Building on the successes of the sixth administration and guided by the medium-term development plan as articulated by the President during the opening of Parliament, the strategic mission of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation is to position and utilize all the science, technology and innovation capabilities that we have, as well as resources on the score to address our country's most urgent existential and developmental challenges. Existential because we are faced with challenges that pose a threat to our own existence as humanity, like climate change, for instance. But developmental challenges in terms of contributing to the national development agenda. Suffice it to remind ourselves that our most urgent developmental challenges are to overcome the persistent legacies of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Government sees science, technology, and innovation as a strategic enabler and catalyst for tackling these vexing challenges. STI is furthermore also crucial in enabling our country to deal with new existential challenges, as I have said, such as climate change and ecological destruction, particularly also insofar as these impact negatively on lives and livelihoods of especially the poor and the marginalized. As the committee is aware, the DSTI has organized its policy responses to these challenges through the decadal plan, our 10-year plan, which seeks to leverage all South Africa's STI capabilities to support the modernization of our economy, principally but not exclusively manufacturing, agriculture and mining, and also to promote the digital and circular economies, as well as innovation in health and energy and the building of a capable state. Central to the tasks that I've just outlined is the need to further expand, strengthen, and transform South Africa's national system of innovation, both in its public and private components, to ensure it has the depth, scale, and internal differentiation to support the decadal plan goals. In addition, Honorable Chair and honorable members, our national system of innovation also needs to be transformed to better reflect our country's racial, gender, class, and spatial demographics. In this regard, and indeed building on a recommendation from this committee, I have mandated the National Advisory Council on Innovation, NACI, which is one of our entities, to convene a summit on transformation in the national system of innovation. hopefully before the end of this year. If it's not possible before the end of this year, during the first quarter of next year. I have given NACI this task. In addition, I have directed the Acting Director General to explore and make a presentation to me at the next Minister Management meeting, what we call our MMM meetings, on how we can set up a program dedicated to supporting, strengthening, and enhancing research and development, as well as STI capacity in our historically disadvantaged universities. Continues to be of concern to me that even when you look at the science awards, they largely still come from your former white universities. This is something that I want to pay particular attention during this 7th administration, that we actually lay a very strong foundation to transform these realities, and therefore a dedicated focus, like the DHET has got its Sibusiso Bhengu development program to strengthen historically disadvantaged universities academically and in governance. We would like to also have a similar kind of an intervention, specifically focused on strengthening research and development. At University of Limpopo, at University of Venda, University of Zululand, at Fort Hare, and so on. My ministry is also busy with preparations to convene what we hope the president will reinstate the Science, Technology and Innovation Interministerial Committee, which he had set during the 6th administration, so that we set an agenda and budgetary coordination for key STI priorities across government, including strategies for driving STI goals across different tiers of government. This IMC will serve as a prelude to requesting the president to convene the next Science, Technology and Innovation Presidential Plenary, which brings together all the strategically significant STI stakeholders from the public, private, and civil society sectors to lead in addressing overarching STI priorities for the country as a whole. We will inform you about this, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, and also will invite the Portfolio Committee to be part of such a plenary, so that you are able for yourselves to observe firsthand what we are doing, which will also enhance your own focus on accountability by knowing better also what we are doing in practice. For purposes of today's presentation, we performed an analysis of the DSI's performance for the period under review, which is the first quarter. While there are areas where the department's performance is satisfactory, our analysis also tells us that there are areas requiring serious and urgent attention. I have already directed the Acting Director General to ensure that the areas of concern highlighted in the performance analysis that will be given here are given corrective attention and focus, and that we provide regular progress reports to yourselves as the committee on how these matters and concerns are being addressed. Some of the areas of the department's performance that I need to state up front are of concern to me include the following: that some of the targets that have not been met, I'm very concerned about that. And there's one particular program which also has not met its project, or has managed not to meet its project, 67.5% around that, as well as the others. This is of concern to me, and I will be taking this up. Also of concern is the need to improve aspects of our financial management, an area that we have identified and also the need to ensure the sustainability of our key initiatives. Also, I'm concerned about the need to enhance our knowledge utilization interventions, and also the need to foster effective public participation in policymaking. Of course, running across all this is the issue of transformation, which I am really elevating even higher during this term. I have directed the department's performance presentation for the period under review to cover the following categories: the outcome goals, our overall performance, overview of performance per program, performance highlights, and financial performance. As it has been reported, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, our acting DG, Mr. Dan du Toit, is on an official overseas trip together with the Deputy Minister, attending the Ministers of Science meeting of the G20 countries. The department's presentation today will therefore be led by Dr. Mboneni Mobe, who is the Deputy Director General for Technology Innovation. With your permission then, Chair, let me stop here and request that you allow Dr. Mobe to actually lead the presentation. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, can I proceed?
Yes, you can. We're given the
Okay,
minister so that he can lead you to it.
Thanks very much, and thank you, Minister, for the introduction. And I just want to also indicate here that I have been joined by my colleagues who are the DDGs responsible for various programs in the department, as well as the Chief Financial Officer. As I begin the presentation, the CFO is helping me with the projection. If we can just take that to the presentation mode. Let me acknowledge the CFO, the DDG Imran Patel, DDG Zwane, DDG Mukwena, and Acting DDG Rakeshni, who are representing various programs. And I think I didn't see Acting DDG Vini Pillay, but I think she'll be representing Program 3. As the Minister has indicated, the presentation, and I'm going to get the camera off for the sake of just making sure that the data issues are not giving us problems. The presentation is going to be focusing on the outcome goals and the performance, and how we intend to really implement, as the Minister has said, raising some of the concerns, dealing with some of the areas where the performance has not been as planned. CFO, can we get that to presentation mode? CFO, are you winning?
It's showing slideshow on my side. Isn't it showing that side?
Well, not on my side, but if it is, I don't know if it is showing on the rest of the people in the meeting, but for me, it's just still showing.
Yes. Let me see.
No, it needs to be put on the presentation mode. What is showing on my side is a split screen which has got the slides on the left, slide 0 and slide 1, and then split, and then on the right it's got
the main slide.
I suppose what is the first slide? Need to presentation mode. Yes. by making sure that the first slide then is enhanced. No, it's still not. I don't know why.
Maybe because
must
honorable members have the presentations, and then I think everyone might have the presentation how they are. As and when you are still fixing, you can proceed, and then we find an amicable way to fix the issue.
No, thanks a lot, Chairperson. So I'm just going to be quickly reflecting on the outcome goal slide. And I think as Minister has indicated, one of our main goals is to make sure that we are running a system that is transformed, that is inclusive, and that is responsive. And I think those are some of the core values on the basis on which this department and basically the country at large needs to run. So we also are about ensuring that we are contributing to the development of human capacity in a manner that we talk about human capital that is able to be relevant to the economy and also to a country like ours that is still in its developmental stage. We also more crucially look at ensuring that through science, technology, and innovation, we can actually build what we call a developmental and capable state. And this has actually been able to be demonstrated in various ways, especially in terms of how science, technology, and innovation can be responsive in instances when we are required to address various challenges, including dealing with disasters and crises. So the next slide that I'm going to look at is just the one on the overall performance of the department. We have, during this particular quarter that we're reporting on, 36 targets that we were looking to achieve. But as reported, we've achieved 27 of the 36, and that translates to 75% performance. And of course, 75% is not nearly where we want to be. And we really will then just look at how has that performance been actually split between various programs. The next slide that I'm going to look at is the performance per program. We've got 5 programs, program 1 up to program 5, program 1 being administration, program 2 technology innovation, program 3 international cooperation, and then research development and support and socio-economic innovation partnerships at program 5. You will see that program 1 and 2 have achieved 100% of their targets. And these are programs that had, for the quarter, 2 and 3 targets that were set respectively, and they were able to achieve all of them. When you come to program 3, it has achieved 8 of its 9 targets, and that translates to 89% performance. And you would see also that in terms of program 4, and that's what I think Minister has reflected on, where the performance was at 33% and with 67% not being achieved. And as we go to just provide some background on those challenges around performance, you will really notice that these are really falling under what we call process issues. And as Minister has said, we are committing to make sure that we deal with this decisively, to make sure that when we come to report next time, the picture will be completely different. In program 5, 11 out of 13 targets for the quarter has been achieved. That translates to 85%. And then if we really go into looking at what are some of the areas of performance in terms of the aspect of the support for building human capabilities and skills for the economy and development, we reflect here on the support that was given to students through bursaries and internships. And here we're looking at BTech honors and master students as well as doctoral and the interns. So by and large, I think here we are pleased that the targets that have been set for performance in this area have been exceeded. And as you can see, the numbers, of course, that we have set are very much in line with the kind of the budget that we have. And we are pleased that through that budget, the focus has really been able to let us do what we needed to do in terms of making sure that the aspect of transformation, gender sensitivity are also taken care of. So that is really why when you look at the total number of beneficiaries, if you're looking at BTech and honors, we've got quite a high percentage of those being Black, and also way over 50% of those being women. And I think this really just shows that our commitment to transformation, as Minister has said in this level, is trying to show some signs of positive improvement. The internship is quite an important area. We continue to make sure that as soon as we've got graduates in the area of science, technology, and innovation, including other areas of social sciences, that we create opportunities for these graduates to have on-the-job experience, and this is really where our internship comes. We have also broken this down, and as you can see, we've got a small percentage of our cohort students being a legion of foreign students, and this is really a part of some of the commitments that we have in terms, for example, of making sure that we are not just about South Africa, but also looking into how we can contribute to Africa's development as well. Next slide. So in terms of the outcome 2, which really looks at the, again, continuation of the human capacity and skills for the economy, we just indicating here that we have been able to really exceed some of the targets. And here on this slide, we're just showing one of the impact. One of the challenges that we navigate very sensitively is the fact that as a department, we do not have active presence at provinces and local government. So we have a program that focuses on promoting innovation at that level, and this is really called the Regional Innovation Support Program. And through that, we work with provinces, we work with municipalities, and through some of our engagements, we are pleased that we have been able to really assist someone who was able to actually even put up a provisional patent, which we hope that with time it's probably going to be fully registered and approved as a patent that can actually be exploited to benefit society. So that really is quite important as we work towards making sure that in all provinces we have this presence where innovation can actually be accessible and inclusive. When we look at the overall performance in terms of this, we have indicated here that we have been able to exceed the targets, and we're hoping that obviously as we try to also do a whole lot of other work that we're doing, including around the budget coordination, that when we get more resources, we'll be able to really increase the impact more than it currently is. And we're also pleased here for the fact that while we've got a target on emerging researchers that was really missed, that some of the interventions that we have are probably going to help us in terms of just building for the future the cohort of new researchers. There is, for example, an approval that our minister did in May around the concept document for the presidential PhD program. And we hope that through this, when we have support for PhDs and also giving them opportunities for exposure abroad, that this is going to be a platform where we can actually grow our research cohorts for the future. In the area of international cooperation, we are pleased that we continue to also make some impact. There we have hosted during the quarter the Roscosmos delegation, Roscosmos being our equivalent of the National Space Agency. And we took them to some of our facilities, Hermanus, which does work around magnetic observatory and also space weather science, and the Overberg test range where we're doing work around the development of rocket and also rocket engines and the launching activities. And this particular partnership is quite important because we use this to strengthen our partnerships and also, where necessary, to build facilities jointly with our partners. And in this case, Roscosmos committing to collaborate with South Africa to develop its space infrastructure as it has assisted other countries in this area. You may recall that as we provide some update some 2 weeks ago on the work that SANZA does, we have also reflected on the partnerships that we have with the NASA, which is the American Space Agency, in areas around deep space research. The other work that we are quite proud of is around the indigenous knowledge system, what we call the establishment of the documentation centers. Now, this is quite crucial in the mainstreaming of indigenous knowledge systems. The work that we do here is to make sure that indigenous knowledge systems are actually documented, so we don't just rely on the word of mouth. But in doing so, we also ensuring that the intellectual property that comes out of that knowledge is actually not leaked, but it can really be used and utilized to benefit the knowledge owners. So this is really a very important project. So the event that we were holding in April in Durban was therefore quite crucial in just making sure that that mainstreaming of indigenous knowledge system can actually be completed. But most importantly, that we're not only doing this for the African continent, for South Africa, but we also are leading efforts in ensuring that this kind of work and leadership benefits the rest of the continent. Next slide. In terms of the next item, which is really knowledge utilization for economic development, it is important that we continue to build, especially in the area of entrepreneurship. One of the challenges that we have, we always hear that small businesses are the ones that are going to contribute a lot to employment creation. And us providing what we call seed and pre-seed funding is quite crucial, because a lot of ideas are at a stage where they are not investable yet, but they still need to be developed. So the departments using the pre-seed and seed funding to support especially young entrepreneurs to refine their ideas so that they can be commercial ready is quite important. So when we partner with the World Bank to host a workshop on how we can actually use seed funding to grow entrepreneurship in the country was quite important. And this has really led to the robust discussion on what the early stage funding requirements are for various stakeholders within the countries. And it is also directing us in terms of how we can provide funding for the likes of the Technology Innovation Agency to support our young people.
My apologies, Dr. Mofe. My apologies for interjecting. I had seen there was a hand from Honorable Mazoni. Are you fine, or we can proceed? Honorable Mazoni. Okay, no,
Chair,
I think we
my
can
part,
proceed.
sorry
Right,
to interrupt,
Minister.
Chair. On my part, I was just going to urge the DDG just to move faster. I notice he's still on slide 11. Sorry, slide 13, when we've got 45 slides. At this rate, we may not even get enough time to have a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very
you,
much,
Minister. I
Minister.
think. Okay, I'll thank you, Minister, for that advice. Mr. Mofe, you are all ears. Since I can't get hold of Honorable Mazoni, Mr. Mofe, Dr. Mofe, you can continue.
Okay, so thanks very much. The next one was just around the issue of the pilot project on technology assessment that was funded by United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. And this is really in support of the work that we're doing on the green hydrogen part, to make sure that as we enter this space of green hydrogen, that there are technologies that would have been validated that can actually help, especially to launch various entrepreneurs to get into this space to benefit from the hydrogen economy. The next slide is just the investment that we have made on the expansion of the PP equipment facility. This is quite important because when we have this, it's going to enable us to ensure the markets for our products in the medical space, where there's a lot of challenges in terms of accreditation. So when this facility is expanded and upgraded, it will really be the one that even the manufacturers can actually consult to get accreditation from. And then the aspect of the hot isostatic press facility, this is the facilities that enable the manufacturing of various high-tech parts, especially that goes to aerospace and automotive. Again, this is going to be quite useful in building capacity and competitiveness of our various industries, especially in aerospace and in automotive, but also in the aspect of health and the medical equipment manufacturing. The Innotex is just our participation in International Innovation Exhibition. Again, an opportunity for us to showcase what we have been able to do and what we can do in South Africa. In terms of the utilization of knowledge for inclusive development, we are pleased that some of the technologies that we have supported are being deployed, for example, in terms of improving access to quality drinking water in schools. This is an example of a system that was deployed in one school where there were challenges of water, and we are pleased that, again, we're using some of the innovations that we have supported to begin to make an impact in communities. I'm gonna go to the slide on the work that has been done through the Space Agency. We might recall that earlier this year there was an issue around the solar flares and the solar storms, and this can actually create a lot of distraction on especially transport, communications, and infrastructure that is utilized in energy generation. So we were able to issue a lot of warnings that were heeded to by the likes of Eskom to avoid damage to infrastructure and to facilities. So we continue to do this, and this, in our view, is to build a capable state, but also because the information we generate here is shared with other countries, that we also see our presence in a whole range of other countries as well. We also are supporting projects that are using technology in encouraging participation by our citizens. The e-participation initiative is quite important because that's where, through various mobile applications, you can actually ensure that when there are issues that need to be tackled at community level, the leadership in municipalities can actually be able to communicate using this technology. We have initially made reference to, for example, what we have been able to do in terms of what happened in Gauteng with the issues around potholes and so on, using these similar platforms. Now, just the last area I'm going to be looking at is just briefly to look at some of the reflections in terms of the area of our participation and of our targets, where we have missed the targets. I've indicated that the bulk of the targets, as Minister has said, are those that we really have to reflect on very seriously and make sure that when we report next time, the picture will be completely different. Now, when we look at the target that was missed by Program 3, this was the target that entailed creation of new international leveraging opportunities for South African students to participate in the international training programs. This has taken a little bit longer than we anticipated, and the colleagues are currently working to make sure that they get back to ensuring that we meet our target by the end of this quarter. So again, these are the delays that we feel that will need to be properly and better managed next time to make sure that all the targets are met. The next one is going to be around the targets that have been missed by Program 4, and this is really just to indicate what the Program 4 is about. Now, we have the targets, the targets that are being looked at here will be about researchers in general, and we disseminated that in terms of Black researchers, emerging researchers, and so on and so forth. But the causes of non-performance are the same. These are instances where the grants have been awarded by the National Research Foundation. However, because we do not count into numbering the achievements until such grants have been claimed, this is really where the lack of achievements has been. So we are really working to make sure that we correct that. And one of the contributing factor has also been the fact that the NRF has introduced a new online system which had its own teething problems. And we're working with the NRF to try and make sure that this picture is completely changed. So again, this is one area where, as Minister has indicated, these are the targets that we need to avoid missing. So we are going to make sure that we deal with them decisively, even in the next quarter. So the one thing is that these targets that have been missed, we will be accounting for them even when we report in the next quarter, just to make sure that the committee is confident that we are actually dealing with these particular targets and not just forgetting them because we are in a new quarter. The next slide, I think I've tried to summarize the causes of the non-performance in program 4, because it's still the same family of targets. The other target that I need to reflect on was on the basis of certain meetings not being held. And again, we just have agreed that the team is going to make sure that this planning in advance is done so that we do not have a situation where meetings that are planned for a particular quarter cannot be held. In terms of program 5, the target that has been missed relates to the R&D tax incentive approvals. We have again here been slow in making sure that we reach the 80% of the projects being reviewed in time, and we were short by 15%. And again here, this is another one where we have put stringent measures in place to make sure that we catch up and exceed the targets in the next quarter. We are going to quickly go through the financials, and I'm going to ask the CFO to take us through this. Thank you. CFO.
Thanks, Acting DG, and morning everyone. And apologies for the mishap with the presentation. I will be sharing the financial performance for the quarter. For the current quarter, or maybe for the whole of the financial year, the department is allocated 9.4 billion, which is split in this way. For compensation, we've got 386 million, goods and services 217 million, transfers and subsidies 8.854 billion, payment for capital assets 10,500,000. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. In terms of performance, we plan to spend 1.7 billion in the quarter. However, we only spend, we spend 1.6 billion, which is 17% of the total budget. But for the quarter, our underspending was 7%, which translates to 111 million. If one can elaborate in terms of the National Treasury guidelines or prescripts, if department in a particular period spend within 8%, either over or under, it is called and what is accepted in terms of the spending patterns. So for that quarter, as much as we didn't spend 111 million, but in terms of percentages and acceptable levels, we spend within the acceptable parameters. Next slide, please. In terms of percentage in the economic classification for compensation, we plan to spend 95,633,000. We spend 97,677. We overspent by 2 million. The reason being, in the first quarter, there was salary adjustments, which were not in terms of our cash flow. Normally, when we do our cash flow for salary adjustment, it has been a history or practice that the salaries will be increased in the second quarter of the financial year. So as a result, the increase were earlier than expected. Then as a result of that, we had an overspending. But it's something that as the year goes along, the amount will be corrected. For goods and services, we plan to spend 75,792,000. We spent 62,213. We didn't spend 18 million. Largely, we had the challenge with regard to our travel invoices. There were instances where our service provider will send us duplicate invoices. So as a result, sometimes we will, take time in terms of verifying, ensuring that the invoices that we are paying are correct. As a result, some of the areas we did not pay the invoices as we wanted to. In terms of transfer and subsidies, our plan was to spend 1,536,000,000. We spent 1,436,000,000. We couldn't spend 100 million. And then under payment for capital assets, our plan was to spend 344,000. We spent 3,444,000. We spent 3,364,000. We couldn't spend 80%. So in terms of reasoning, as the compensation, as I've said, is as a result of adjustments that came earlier than anticipated. For goods and services, we had some of the invoices that we didn't get from our partners, and including travel invoices, as I've indicated, and there was one contract that was delayed in terms of the finalization. As a result, we couldn't make payments in these areas. For transfers, we do have, when it comes to contracting, the due diligence that is done in contracting sometimes delays, the finalization of the contracts, which lead to payments taking time to be paid. And also we have introduced strict mechanisms of ensuring that we don't make payments just for the purpose of making a payment. We scrutinize all the payments that we make. If a project has not spent 90% of the prior payments, we don't make subsequent payments until we are satisfied. So we don't encourage our entities or our implementing agents to keep money, to have large cash surpluses in their area. As a result, some payments will be delayed, but it will be something that we know, as I said, we try to cap, entities keeping money that they shouldn't be keeping. So if they didn't spend 90%, we don't make payments. In terms of programs, we plan to spend 111 million. Under administration, we spent 98. 13 million was not spent. Under technology innovation, which is program 2, our plan was to spend 309 million. We spent 226 million. Program 3, ICR, we spent 36 million. We plan to spend 36 million. We spent 30 million. And under program 4, research, development, and support, our plan was to spend 808,693,000. We spent 825,000. We couldn't spend 5,668,000. Under program 5, socioeconomic innovation partnerships, our plan was to spend 446,116,000. We spent 441,90,000. We couldn't spend 5,026,000. Next slide, please. We have also shared a slide on how we are doing as far as procurement is concerned. Our total procurement for the quarter was 62 million, but this includes payments we made to state institutions like SETA, DERCO for arrangement of international travel, GCIS for media campaigns. But under procurement, we spent 22 million, and the 22 million under SMEs, we spent 11 million, which is 71.9%. And black companies in general, we spent 15 million, which is 31.5%. Women-owned companies, we spent 6.9 million, which is 16.3%. Youth-owned companies, we spent 3.6 million. Youth-owned companies, we spent 3.6 million, which is 16.3%. And companies owned by disabled people, we spent 871,000, which is 3.9%. We are trying by all means to ensure that we are inclusive as far as procuring from these categories is concerned. And then in terms of payment of invoices, we are trying by all means to pay all our invoices within time. For April, our average payment period for the current year was 10 days for April and May, and it improved to 9 days for June. Next slide, please. In terms of percentages, for April, we spent 98.7%, May 100%, June 98.9%. As I said, we had challenges with the invoices that were, we had to take time verifying, ensuring that we are paying correct. We are not doing double payments. We do have quite a number of invoices from our travel agents. The volume is very high, and it affects our payment period. For 2 months, it also had an impact. But also in June, we had a supplier whose pending details were changed, and we only knew when the payment was done. And if when they had to address that, the payment date had passed. As a result, for these 2 months, we couldn't pay our invoices on time. But we try by all means to ensure that we pay all our invoices on time. Thanks. Back to you, DDG. Thanks.
No, thanks very much. And just as I hand over, just two main comments to make here is that in terms of the performances you have seen, 75% is not exactly where we would want to be. So we will be looking at improving on this. And as you have seen, while we can talk about averaging, we can see that even when you look at program level, there are definitely serious areas of focus that we are going to pay special attention to. On the financial side, I think very crucially, as the CFO has indicated, pretty much within the allowed spending level. But of course, there are, again, areas of special attention, especially with specific programs where we are going to need to focus on. And we quite pleased that in terms of the payments of invoices and also the split in terms of looking at how our spend is in dealing with issues of support for women, young and SMEs that we're doing. I think even though there's room for improvement, the signs are very positive there. So I'm just going to hand over to Minister, and then we'll see how we proceed going forward. Thanks very much, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. That constitutes our presentation, and we are in your hands now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, and the team from DSI. I will now take hands from honorable members for questions and deliberations. I see Honorable Mazoni, your hand is up. Honorable members, can I have takers? Honorable Nkosi, you will follow Honorable Mazoni. Honorable members. Okay. I will have Honorable Mazoni, Honorable Nkosi, and then Honorable Shong. Honorable Mazoni, you can start.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Ministers and DDGs. Please allow me to keep my camera off for
recording in
bandwidth
progress.
purposes. Chair, I was studying the slides quite carefully, and also I went through them when we received them. And may I say, it was very refreshing to receive the slides in advance so that we were able to go through them by ourselves before the presentation. Chair, I notice that one of the worries, and I'm pleased to see that it is a worry, was that budgets were underspent and certain KPIs weren't met. Does this have something to do with the fact that perhaps we overlap somewhat with other committees? And if so, how, and perhaps this is directly to the Minister. Minister, how are we going to breach this overlap that happens with committees? I'm seeing a definite overlap with regards to ourselves as science, technology and innovation and digital technologies, as well as energy and health and education to a large degree. It seems that we all need to be working very much in tandem to make sure that we breach these hurdles that we need to overcome. I'm also very pleased in seeing the transformation as to how many women. I believe it was 1,000, over 1,700 women are now doing degrees and taking part in scientific education. And I'm very glad to see this increase in this amount of women participating in a field that was largely male dominated in the past. And I'm wondering, how do we extend this interest in the sciences, given the fact that the world is in a scientific and technologically growing era, and we know that the future is science-based and technologically based, and how do we make sure going forward that people, as you say, that human capacity doesn't become redundant? I think this is one of the existential problems the minister spoke about, and I'm wondering how we, through legislation and how we, through our actions as a committee, make sure that we as human beings keep up with technology as it advances. And then in terms of committees that are meeting on the international sphere, I mean, we can now meet via Zoom and via all sorts of online platforms, etc. Do we foresee in the future the minister taking us as a committee on a tour, perhaps a virtual tour of these international summits that are taking place, so that we as South Africa know exactly what's happening in the world sphere with regards to science, technology, and innovation? Because I am a firm believer that South Africa has much to offer when it comes to technology and innovation. And we already have some incredible scientists that are creating and inventing and just forwarding science at a rapid pace in South Africa. And I think that that's something to be applauded and something we must show off as a country as a whole. And then my last point, Chair, if I may, I'm wondering, as a department, as the portfolio committee of the department, will be doing various oversights, perhaps towards the end of this year, and definitely in the next year. I realize that this year has been somewhat chaotic, and with the elections and the formations of government, etc. But next year, it's my opinion, and this is solely my opinion, I could be wrong, but the best way to understand scientific innovation and technologies that are becoming available is to physically see it happening and physically see and grasp the concept of what's going on. And that also, of course, includes patents that are being registered by South Africans across the world. And will we be seeing this kind of thing, Minister? Is this the kind of thing that the portfolio will be taken? This is a journey that you obviously are taking your department on, and will we as a portfolio committee be joining you on this journey? Thank you very much.
Honorable Nkosi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to yourself, Honorable Minister, and all honorable members that are in the meeting, as well as the department's officials. Chairperson, I'd first like to appreciate the department's work in assuring support to women and Africans, in particular Blacks, as to balance equality among race and gender. I think that's a good one. But I also appreciate the fact that they have also presented their focus on support mostly on the local postgraduates. Chair, my question will be, do they also provide support to non-South Africans? And what is the percentage of non-South Africans beneficiaries versus the local beneficiaries? I also think, Chairperson, the department should also focus on broadening the scope of support to students who want to pursue their doctorate studies, like doctorate in law, focusing mainly on science, technology, and innovation. Chairperson, currently, there is a growing demand in cybersecurity opportunities that the department can exploit as to open opportunities for young unemployed people in South Africa. If the department can also take note of that, Chair. Also, Chairperson, I think the drone pilot license opportunities for unemployed young people are some of the quick wins
that the department can assist as to benefit our people through this technological innovations program. Chairperson, I also want to agree with Honorable Minister that with regard to the targets that were not achieved, the department should also work harder as to achieve those targets, Chair. I raise this, Chairperson, because if you look at the targets, there is a target of supporting 650 emerging researchers, and the target missed is 357, which is 55%. And also there was a target, Black female emerging researchers. The program also aimed to support 250 Black female emerging researchers, but this target was missed by 53%. It worries me, Chairperson. I think we should try by all means, Chair, to reach those missed targets. That will also assist the department and also assist our people. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nkosi. Honorable Hlongo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to the department and the AG, and also greetings to the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, and all honorable members on the platform. Chair, let me also start by welcoming both presentations, or the presentation from the department, and shoot straight to my questions, Chair. Looking at the time that we have, Chairperson, my questions therefore will be, okay, on outcome goals. What are the specific goals outlined in transforming the national science of innovation? That's question number one. Secondly, how does the department measure the success of increased knowledge generation and innovation outputs? Chair, the department speaks very fondly on international relations they have, international corporations. So I want to know what were the objectives of the department's collaboration with Roscosmos and more, and how does it align with South Africa's space infrastructure goals? And also, how did the department's participation in the Innotex 2024 exhibition benefit South Africa's innovators? On knowledge utilization, what initiatives were undertaken to improve knowledge utilization for economic development, particularly in traditional industries? And how does the department plan to implement the policy recommendation from the technology assessment pilot project? On the finances or the financial performance, what were the reasons for the variance between planned and actual spending in Q1? And secondly, how does the department's procurement expenditure reflect its commitment to supporting SMMEs and Black-owned companies? On community impact, in most of the times, we would reflect on how it's important for the department and its entities to reach out directly to the communities about all these projects and all the benefits they have for society. My questions will be, what measures were taken to improve access to quality drinking water in schools, and what were the outcomes of these initiatives? And then how does the establishment of the next generation sanitation knowledge hub contribute to innovative sanitation solutions in South Africa? And then lastly, Chair, as I mentioned, the importance of public participation, how does the department plan to enhance public participation in policy-making processes through technology? Thanks, Chair. That would be all from my side.
Thank you, Honorable Hlongo. Dr. Morfe, can you come back to respond through the minister? Minister, can we get your team back?
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Can I ask maybe Acting DG Dr. Mope to start. I will then come in and also call on any other relevant official that will come in at the end. Perhaps I will focus on the first part after they come in, on the questions mainly asked by Honorable Matsoni, because they seem to have been directed to me in particular. So, Dr. Mope.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. I'm just going to line up the team in the following manner. On questions relating to human capacity development, I'm going to ask DDG Imran Patel to help respond to that, including some that relates to transformation. The engagement with Roscosmos, I'm going to ask Dr. Rakeshni to deal with that. And I think also on the aspect of outreach and engagement with the communities, I'm going to ask DDG Swane. I think with that, the CFO will deal with the matters of finance, and then I will fill in any other gaps. So we're just going to start like, if we start with you, DDG Imran.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you. And now we can't hear you.
You are muted, Imran.
Can I?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. No, my the Zoom thing says that it's there's a problem with my audio, so I hope you'll be able to hear me. Just let me know if you can. So just a few questions. The Honorable Nkosi asked a very specific question about whether we support non-South Africans. We do. We have something that we call a postgraduate funding policy. This is something that we issue on an annual basis to the NRF, which sets specific targets. So for example, in terms of that funding policy, and this is related to the transformation question, we prioritize women as an example. So 55%, up to 55% of all grants must go to women. In terms of non-South Africans, there's a limit set of that, and that is 5%. So in terms of our funding, it's 5% that can be used for non-South Africans. And then we have other targets, and we kind of continuously manage this postgraduate funding policy so that we can get the desired outcomes in terms of transformation. Secondly, I mean, we accept full responsibility for the missed targets. These are targets, there are 6 targets that we missed. The reason why it was only 33% achievement is because in the first quarter, we only report on 9 targets. We have 16 targets in total. So 6 out of the 9 were not achieved. The ones that were not achieved on human capital development, as we indicated, there were some modifications to some systems. So it was more a process that in terms of presenting the evidence for performance, we have something called a technical indicator descriptor that is only done when a claim is made by a researcher. So even if the grant has been awarded, but they haven't necessarily claimed their grant. And so the claims were put in, but they were not necessarily processed because we had some technical hitches. Those were short term. I've been aware, been alerted that those are addressed. And so we're hoping to catch up in the next quarter. So that's on the human capital development missed targets. There were also missed targets, but there were no specific questions which were processed. It's about consulting on 2 new two strategies that we're revising, our paleo and our marine work. And those require engagement with other government departments and stakeholders, and that has moved a bit more slower than possible. So those are on the kind of human capital development program. There's a lot that's coming that we hope that in the course of the next meetings of the portfolio committee, we would be able to provide a lot more information about how we targeting, for example, historically disadvantaged institutions, the presidential PhD program now, our internship program. We have a very successful postdoctoral program. So there's a whole suite of human capital development interventions. And all of these are aimed at what a number of members have indicated. Our role as the DSI is to be very targeted around our human capital development interventions to support areas that we know we require. For example, Honorable Bazoni raised the issue of how do we keep people prepared, and part of that is high-level human capital development. So we have programs in AI, in food security, in the social sciences, etc. But hopefully there'll be other opportunities where we can specifically provide more detail on our human capital development efforts. Thanks, Poneni and Minister.
Okay, thanks very much. DDG Rakeshni?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Minister, and the honourable members. Just on the SANSA and the Roscosmos engagement, there was a meeting and an engagement between the South African National Space Agency and their counterpart in Russia. And this happened earlier in June at the Overberg testing range. And what it was about is seeking to resuscitate the indigenous launch capabilities in South Africa and strengthening our ground-based space infrastructure. And in this regard, SANSA has secured financing from National Treasury through the budget infrastructure facility, or the budget facility for infrastructure, to upgrade the capabilities that we have in terms of the infrastructure base to support this capability. So what's happened currently is that there was a technical visit and they were looking at where and how we can partner between Russia and South Africa in terms of strengthening our launching capabilities for accessing ICT technologies and making sure we do get telecoms, as an example, strengthened in South Africa, and obviously reducing the costs of our mobile and data access, and obviously accessing some of the Earth observation data that is critically important. So what we're looking at here is that SANSA is putting together a proposal that will be shared with the department in terms of how this relationship can be further strengthened in terms of this peaceful usages of the technology, as well as technology protection and skills transfer. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Rakesh. We'll also comment on the issue around the green hydrogen technologies assessments.
Yes, we are on the green hydrogen technology. We are also looking at working with SANEDI, our Energy Secretariat, and finding out how we can start strengthening some of the key initiatives that have been outlined in the Hydrogen Society roadmap. And we're looking largely at developing what we call now an implementation strategy to start shifting the needle and moving forward. But in doing so, we're also heavily dependent on how we move with the through our minister, of course, engaging the Deputy President's Office for establishing the Interdepartmental Committee on the Hydrogen Society roadmap. And that will identify for us a number of key priority areas as a whole of government approach. Thank you, DG Moefe.
Okay, thanks very much. Just to my last comments from my side, I think just to the point that DDG Imran was referring to around the percentage of support to foreign students. I think we've, as per the statistics we have now, I think the highest percentage was in the area of, honors masters, where we had 1.2% of them were foreigners, but in the rest of them, whether it's PhD or in the internship, they are well below 1%, 0.8 and 0.3% respectively. But I think the point that I want to also address relates to, in terms of the outreach and the social impact, whether it is around the issue of e-participation. There are various initiatives and platforms that we're launching through projects on inclusive development, where we work directly in communities, where we are encouraging and supporting young people to develop their own systems where they can engage in various communities, but also where, through, for example, the use of various mobile applications, challenges in particular municipalities can actually be communicated to with the leadership, hence helping them to make sure that whatever decision they take, they are actually informed by what communities are raising. There are also other projects that are based on the analysis, for example, of what people are saying in various social media platforms, where that can be shared with various communities to say, when we look at what people are raising, this is what you might need to focus on as well. The aspect of the role in the issues of water provision, I've indicated, I've given an example of one of the projects that we have supported at a school, but there are others where, working with the likes of the Water Research Commission, we have been implementing at pilot level, and I think I need to emphasize that at pilot level, some of the innovations that have been developed to see if they can actually be upscaled. And some of the pilots have been going on very well in the area of whether it is water purification, and also just making sure that access to water is actually improved. So those initiatives around water are quite broad. Some of them are looking generally at sanitation in schools, or making sure that specific communities that are not having the normal piped water can actually have access to. I think that probably would cover in the aspect of outreach. We've got various outreach programs. Actually, next week, the minister will be launching the Science Week as one of our mainstay program in terms of raising awareness of science, technology, and innovation. While this was initially primarily focused on schools, it actually is a community-wide engagement where we get to engage, making sure that we raise awareness of whether it is current science, but also the day-to-day roles that science play in people's lives. So starting from the week of the 28th of September, that week will probably be seeing a lot of focus on our outreach programs around science, technology, and innovation. I think I'm going to stop it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Acting DG, through you, Chair. Let me just perhaps answer the question. The one thing I would have liked the officials to clarify, I mean, DDG Imran was saying it's 5% or less of bursaries to non-South African. It would be very good to point out, of those, what percentage or what component are actually recipients from the rest of the African continent. Because I think it's important that we also highlight that, because it's one of our bias that even with non-South African students that we give bursaries to, we tend towards prioritizing students from the rest of the continent. It would be good if one can get that clarity, maybe once I've finished here, from the officials. Honorable Mazzone, the questions you're asking are very important. In many respects, I am excited that you are making the kinds of comments and asking the kinds of questions that you are asking, because the first thing is the overlaps. You know, you are pointing out an important thing, because our work actually cuts across the rest of government, if you like. And what I've decided I'm going to do this time around is that within the next few months, I will actually be signing some memoranda of agreement with what one would call science-intensive departments and other critical economic departments with my colleagues, the ministers. For example, we've already have an agreement that we need to meet with the Minister of Defense, because there's lots of science work that is taking place done by Denel, for example, AMSCO, and so on. And in addition, also, we've got some challenges there, because with state capture, by the way, some of our IP from Denel was stolen. So it's going to be important that we try and see, working with Minister Motshekga, our intellectual property, how we actually revitalize that. But I'll also be doing the same, for instance, with the Minister of Agriculture, because we are doing a lot of science work in support of agriculture. Transport is another department that one will actually have to work close, but there are a number of them. So what I intend to do is then to sign memoranda of agreement in terms of priority areas. I'm also pleased, I think I did report here, that what we've already done, we've done an analysis of all the budget votes, speeches of the ministers in the more science-intensive departments that are close, including Minister of Health. We're doing lots of work on health innovation and so on. The aim of that would be to make sure that we work closely together to support what they are doing through science, technology, and innovation. That's what I want to do, and we'll keep you informed as to how we are progressing with these science intensive departments. The other thing, by the way, I may as well inform you about is that at the end of this month, together with Minister Tilleen, we're going to be tabling a cabinet memorandum, as well as which will be about launching what we call astrotourism in South Africa as a formal tourism program focusing on astronomy. And it will inevitably be located around the Northern Cape, where we have the Square Kilometre Array. And we showcase this to actually attract visitors who have an interest in astronomy. That South Africa is a primary area for astronomy through our Square Kilometre Array. So we will then be hitting two birds with one stone. We promote tourism, but at the same time, we are showcasing South African scientific activity. On my side, I intend to expand that collaboration with Minister of Tourism to just look at science tourism generally to South Africa. We have we are the place for the origins of the humankind. And also there are many other science things that we can showcase. I will highlight a few when I come to the next issue that Honorable Matsoni was raising. In fact, what I would like to see happening in our country is promoting science tourism. Also, the advantage of that is that it can also help to attract investment into our science, technology, and innovation, which is something that we desperately need. So we are also, by the way, collaborating already with the Department of Higher Education and Training. I started this when both departments were under me, with the presidential PhD program of R1 billion, where we want to send our best of our PhD and postdoc students to the rest of the world to be exposed to high-level scientific work in a variety of areas. Now, the issue of inviting the committee, it's something that is indeed in our plans at a variety of levels. Of course, there are challenges internationally because it's expensive. And also you will have to carry yourself as parliament. But I don't mind that we actually, in fact, it would be very good that one of the international events that we go to, we actually invite some members of parliament to come to. Of course, it doesn't stop you from having your own international trips, which would be more than happy to advise as to which places you could go. There are important multilateral institutions like UNESCO, which meets every 2 years. It's in its annual general meeting. You know, there's lots of exposure that members of the committee can get there, which would enhance your own capacity and improve your oversight capabilities on the work that we do. But we are raising an issue that I hadn't thought about, a creative one, of maybe virtual visits to some of the international things to be able to see whilst here in South Africa as to what is going on. We are more than happy to engage the committee on that, in short. I must be able to say that. Now, the issue of visiting our own science programs and projects in South Africa, I would really urge that maybe by the beginning of the year, you have a program of undertaking some key visits as the committee. We'll be more than happy to advise, but also that when you visit, we've got some officials from the department who are with you there. We have lots of things that you should actually, over the next 5 years, to actually have a look at. We have the square kilometer array. That's the biggest, that's going to be the biggest science infrastructure, not in South Africa, in the whole world, which is studying the stars, astronomy, and so on. Some people say, why are we studying stars when we don't have adequate housing in South Africa? People do not know that the study of astronomy gave birth to the Wi-Fi, for instance. Many people do not know that astronomy also gave birth to the GPS. So there are very practical, tangible outcomes out of studying those things. Wonderful facility at the University of Pretoria called isotopes to diagnose and treat cancer, which, by the way, has become, as you all know, a pandemic in our country. We are funding that. We are supporting that. I would really like you to go and actually see what is going on there. It's very exciting work, you know, that we are actually. We have a weather station in Cape Town, just outside Cape Town, which is in, what is it called, by the way, this place? Hermanus, where we have got a space weather station, which is recognized by the International Aviation Institute of the United Nations to actually monitor space weather for the whole of the African continent and interacting with the aviation industry globally. It's the only station that is being used in the whole of the African continent, internationally recognized. It's in Hermanus. We also have got Ithemba Labs. I don't want to be counting all of this, Chair, taking maybe too much time. Ithemba Labs are laboratories, you know, that are actually producing variety of projects and products. We also have got indigenous knowledge systems. We've got products that are actually produced. We would like to visit some of these centers that we actually have there. SANSA, it's very interesting, our National Space Agency, in terms of the work that it has. That is why it's attracting attention from the United States to China now and to Russia, that we actually are able to collaborate, launching satellites which are playing a very important role. There's lots. I can take the rest of the time of this committee just to come. All what the committee needs to do, we are more than happy to help, is to actually say each year you have to decide how many of these institutions you would actually like to visit, and projects and programs of our department, and then we'll be able to facilitate that. But you are able to formulate your own ideas and also come back and engage us in terms of what is happening. I would be more than excited to actually in doing that. Honorable Nkosi Mphazima, we welcome your recognition that we are really trying very hard to focus on the demographics in the science space. It's something that is very important. We have to defeat that evil decision by Hendrik Verwoerd to say Black people can't study mathematics and science because their role is only behind the spade. And that legacy is still with us in a big way. That is why I was saying I want also a special program now of the department to focus on historically disadvantaged universities. I went to university in 1976 as a first-year honorable chair. There were only 3 universities for Black Africans. It was Tefluop, which is now Limpopo, it was Forte, and it was the University of Zululand. And then you would have, at that time, Western Cape for Coloureds and University of Durban, Westville for Indians. None of those universities, for instance, had engineering faculties at that time. Because just for Black people were not getting enough students who pass. This is what a lot of our science programs actually require if we are to be able to produce women as well as Black South Africans to participate on this. Let me stop there, Chair, so that we can still also allow perhaps another round of questions and engagements. I hope we've not left anything of the things that, but maybe with your permission, can I just ask Dr. Mobe to say something about scholarships and bursaries that are specifically aimed at African students? Let me say this before I ask him to do so. We've got, by the way, another institution that I would urge you to visit. When we're in Cape Town, it's even easy because it's in Muizenberg. It's the Africa Institute of Mathematical Sciences. It's got a nice acronym, it's AIMS. It's actually aimed at strengthening, it's a postgraduate institution which has got links with the universities in the Western Cape, which is UCT, Stellenbosch, and University of the Western Cape. Training students in mathematical sciences. It does master's degrees in the main. Deliberately in that one, we said 80% of the students must be from the rest of the continent because we want to strengthen mathematical sciences. Some of the alumni from there, they are playing very critical role in education and science in a number of African countries. And we said 20% must be South African. It's the only one where we do that because we are deliberately asked by the continent to play a role in terms of producing capacity for mathematical sciences. But just briefly, Chair, with your permission, if Dr. Mopo can just talk about postgraduates for scholarships and bursaries, or maybe Imran as well, that we are particularly targeting African students from the rest of the continent. Thank you, Chair.
No, thanks very much, Minister. Imran is going to talk about the scholarships issue, but perhaps one point to raise is the issue of the role that South Africa plays and has played around building capacity through scholarships in astronomy in the African continent. I think it's also important to mention, and Imran can reflect on that. Also, maybe last point to also ask, I have forgotten to ask the CFO to respond to some of the questions that we raised. If you can do that after Imran, and then we hand over to Minister. Thanks.
Thanks, Boneni. Minister and committee, in terms of the international students, it's open to all international students, but there's a 3-level priority, SADC in the first instance, and then students from the rest of the continent, and then internationally. I don't have offhand the statistics from, say, the last financial year. We can always source that and provide that to colleagues. But that's at the NRF large-scale bursary program level. As Minister started talking about the AIMS project, etc., we have things like NASP, which is specifically targeted as astrophysics and astronomy. Within all of those programs, we also support students, and some of those students, for example, under the NAS program, it's part of the SKA's Africa program. So it's not only tied to human capital development, but we work very closely in ensuring that human capital development is growing astronomy in the area. We're doing something similar in environmental science, through our partnerships with projects like SASCAL, etc. So there's a big emphasis on both capacity building in the SADC in the first instance and the rest of the continent, and then to link this up with greater research cooperation over time. Yeah. So I hope that addresses it, but I'll try to get some more statistics for future engagements on this matter. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
May I? Thanks, Minister. And
yes,
everyone.
Yes, CFO. Yeah.
Okay, no, thanks. There was a question around the variances in the first quarter. What were the reasons? When we were making a presentation, we tried to provide reasons as to why there are variances, where we indicated that largely, particularly under COEs, as a result of salary adjustments that happened in the first quarter, that did not align with our cash flow planning. Normally, when we plan for salary increases, we plan them for the second quarter. But salary adjustment happened in the first quarter, hence we had that variance there. And we did indicate that that one will normalize as the year goes on. And with regard to the transfers, we indicated that we are a bit strict in terms of our entities or implementing agent keeping money. We are saying if you don't spend 90%, we don't make a subsequent transfers. As a result, then we will be sitting with money that we can't transfer because the entities are not spending. So we are quite strict. We have been having large sums of cash surpluses in the past few years. We have done a very good job now. The surpluses have gone significantly down, and we are continuing with that project to ensure that we don't have large surpluses, because the challenge is that if we do have large surpluses, all the line items with large surpluses become targets for the budget cuts. So we are trying to improve in that area. And under goods and services, one area that caused us not to spend is we are one of the area that is driving our spending under goods and services is travel. We do have quite a number of invoices of travel. We've got quite a big volume of invoices. And we try by all means to ensure that we don't make double payments. We verify all the invoices just to ensure that we don't pay something that we are not supposed to pay. As a result, they delay paying of invoices. But we have a handle on that. Going forward, we'll just make sure that that is done as soon as possible to avoid having significant amount of money not being spent as planned. And another question that was a comment that was made was the support we give historically disadvantaged individuals. We have a procurement strategy in the department, which specifically details which percentages we need to procure from previously disadvantaged communities. So we are conscious in terms of who or how much we need to procure from those categories. And even when we develop our planning documents, our procurement plan, our demand plan, we are specific in terms of how much we set aside for those categories. So we are providing support, as we have indicated, and will enhance in this area to ensure that going forward, we are able to do more. But maybe one must just share the challenge. One of the challenges we're experiencing is that if you look at the transversal contracts, for example, for the laptops, for the IT equipments, they are procured through SETA, and we'll find that the service providers that are there, they are predominantly well-known service providers. We don't have service providers that are from these categories. As a result, when we procure laptops, we don't have any leeway of getting to these categories. And also, when you look at the number of service providers, particularly from people with disabilities, they are thin on the ground. It's one of the areas that we are getting challenges to get service providers. But we are constantly engaged in Department of Women to ensure that going forward, there's no mechanism in which they can do, to attract as many people that can be in this category to assist us going forward. Thanks.
That's all
Minister.
for now, Chair.
All right, thank you, Minister. And the DSI team, we thank you, Minister, for those responses. Minister, in the past weeks, we had sessions with your entities, the entities of the departments that are there. We deducted from those sessions that there is a problem of underfunding. You did mention it here with us that there's a problem of underfunding to the department by Treasury. We also picked it up from the entities, that some of the entities are a bit disturbed from their work because of the lack of adequate funds. And we had also made a determination as the committee that the reason some of the world's best countries economically are very strong is that they had taken the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation very serious, and they've invested in it. So we did mention that we are willing as a committee to fight this battle of underfunding with you. But we will be unable to do that properly when there's underspending in part of the departments within the department. So we will really urge you that at least try to push the team to work very hard to spend what the little resources that are designated for the department. On top of that, we had also committed that for as long as when the department or the entities of the department appear before our committee, they mention that we lack funding, we wanted to do so, and so if we had so much money, we would do so and so. We are willing to fight the battle with you so that we are at the level of knowledge of what more could have been done with more funding in the department. We are also happy to announce to you that in the next quarter, we are going to be visiting more of your entities. We are not only visiting, but we have decided and we are hopeful that our wishes be met. We have decided that we will mostly have our meetings by outside Parliament, but we will have them where we see the actual work of the department. We'll come to Pretoria, we'll come to the last meeting we had it at CSIR. We went to their offices, they hosted us there for a portfolio committee meeting. But the next time we're coming to Pretoria, we're coming to where the actual work is being done. So we want to not only discuss the work, but we also want to see the work so that members of the portfolio committee can be made aware of the actual work that has been done. We want to see it where it is done. so that we have a proper understanding of what the department and the entities are doing. We also want to welcome the PhD funding that you have set aside. It's really encouraging, because you see many countries, when they want to build on skills, they take their people, their human resource serious. They take their people to study PhDs, master's degrees outside everywhere in the world, to make sure that they do collect enough knowledge to the country for the country's development. So I hope, Minister, that we are not only having people in our country, students that are only funded for undergraduates, and we can't then invest more on collecting knowledge and expanding on where we are. We are happy with that funding, and we would like to really commend the department for taking such an initiative. We also have so much interest, Minister, on the Grassroots Innovation Fund. The last time TIA appeared before our committee, they did mention that they do have this funding. But we also want to urge the department, Minister, that can we then go to deep rural areas and look for these innovators there, because they are there, but they are far from information, they are far from where you are operating, because normally we have developed a culture of operating in urban areas. Can we reach out really to grassroots innovators? We want to see transformation in that level, even in the funding, on the funding itself. We want to see more redress being done, mainly on funding Black innovators. We really want to see the balance on paper and physical on the matter of funding grassroots innovators, and also the support thereafter of them and their innovations being promoted by the government, equally promoted, Minister. We are also happy, Minister, that there's an increased participation of women in science. I hope all members of the committee could have managed to go with us to the awards, the Women in Science Awards that happened. I think it's last month, if I'm not mistaken. I experienced with Honorable Shongo the vast work that has been done by women in science, and how passionate and innovative those women are. They are really participating and improving the space of science with their great work. Though there's a cry for funding, more funding from their side, but we have seen how far women can really do their work adequately. And we would really like to applaud the department for that work. We have stressed, I'm happy also that in the presentations, there was more stress on transformation. We want to see real transformation. Real transformation meaning that science is not, we will move from science being the thing for the elites. We want to see science being in the day-to-day life of our people, regardless of their color. We want to remove colors, Minister, from science, and all departments and all the work of the country. We want to see all people in this country be equally the equal representation of all colors. One day, Minister, it will be ideal to wake up and we don't have to count statistics of how many blacks, how many whites. We will just have proper numbers of everyone participating in science. And then we make science our day-to-day life. We are also looking forward to being involved in the work that you do in collaboration with international bodies. It's really good to go out there and learn about other people's innovation and how they do their science, especially those that are more advanced than us, so that we can only learn. And if you want to learn, you have to learn from the best. We are willing as a portfolio committee, Minister, to tag along in some of the international work and the international trips that you are doing, and also virtually. I was happy when Honorable Mazoni raised it. I was so happy that she at least raised it on our behalf, that this committee is also ready to learn about the work. And of course, we are already in communication with the department to actually establish which countries we can visit as the portfolio committee. We already have our plans on that, and we would also be happy with the added invites from the department. And those few words, I would really like to thank you, Minister, and the department for the presentations and the engagements. We are grateful for your presence today, and we are grateful for the work that you are doing to develop and change the lives of our people in South Africa. Thank you so much. We are now going to move to the business in our agenda. We are going to move to the business of the committee. Thank you. Minister, you may be excused.
Thank you very much,
next.
Chair and honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shanaz, can you please indicate when we can start with the business of portfolio committee?
Chair, we're good to go, as there's just 2 sets of minutes that still needs to be considered by the committee. That one of the 3rd of September, which was the last engagement we had in our orientation sessions with the entities. And then last week's meeting. So those are that we did on the white paper and the decadal plan. So those are the 2 sets of minutes. I can put it up.
Yes, please, you can.
There we go, Chair. So that is a set of minutes there what we had with ASAF and SACNAS.
Okay. I don't know if it's from my side, but I can't see the screen from my side. Do honorable members see the screen? Shanaz, have you uploaded?
It's your
We can
side,
see it,
Chair.
Chair.
Is my side?
Is it on?
Yes, Chair, the screen is on and we can see the minutes.
Okay. I don't know what's happening with my side, but it's fine if you can see the minutes. Is the minutes of which day, Shanaz?
So that is the 3rd of September, Chair. The last session we had with the entities, two last entities.
Oh, okay. Honorable members, do you want to make additions to the minutes? If no additions, can we move for the adoption of the minutes? Can we have a mover, honorable members?
Chair, I move that we adopt these minutes as a true reflection of what transpired in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hlongo. Can we have a seconder?
Chairperson, can I come in?
Yes, Honorable Nkosi.
Yes, I second the move of adoption of the minutes.
Thank you so much, honorable members. The minutes of the 3rd of September have been duly adopted and seconded. Shanaz?
There's the 10th, Chair. That's the one we had with the DSTI on the white paper and the decadal plan.
Honorable members, do we have any additions to the minutes? If no additions, honorable members, can we have a mover for adoption of minutes? Honorable Mazoni.
Chair, I move that the minutes are adopted.
Thank you, Honorable Mazoni. Can we have a seconder for the adoption?
Thank you, Chair. I move for the second adoption. I second the adoption of the minutes. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ramungaro. The minutes of the 10th has been duly adopted and seconded. We are now done with the business of the portfolio. Shanaz, is there anything else?
It's nothing else, Chair, except that we're going to put the application for our that we have the annual report presentations and the visiting the entities in Pretoria the first week of October, the second week of October, sorry, Chair. So I think Mr. Mankey, the committee assistant, will probably be in touch with the members to just see what their travel preferences are so that we can make that arrangements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Shanaz. Thank you, honorable members. We are going to now meet hopefully in the next meeting in Pretoria. Have a nice recess and have a great day ahead of you. Thank you so much. This meeting is duly adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Chair.
Recording stopped.